Hey, welcome back to The Catalyst. My name's Kyle Bourret.
I'm G. George.
And I'm Marcus Robinson.
And wow, guys, we have a very controversial two-part series that we're starting here for you guys. That's called Sexuality. This is something that the world is trying to figure out. You know, we're all trying to still figure it out. So what I do want to give you guys is, what does the world say is a definition for sexuality? And it's very simply put, guys. It's just the capacity for sexual feelings. That's what the world says, right? And when we look at that from a world's perspective, what does that look like? Like, are we animals? Right? Like human beings?
Like part of the animal kingdom.
Right? Like,
scientifically.
Do animals also have that capacity for the sexual feelings? Or are these animals, for the most part, all the animals on the earth, don't they just have sex, or they're attracted, or however it works, just for reproducing? Isn't that how it usually is?
Yeah, I think that's the most standard answer, that you would say that people think that the animals just exist to exist, but the animals are here for a purpose, to, you know, procreate, to go and reproduce. You know, that's what I feel, you know.
I think for the most part, humans express their sexuality more aggressively than all the other animals in the kingdom. I think that we as men and women emphasize our sexuality, where we talked about the animal kingdom. They do it out of necessity. We do it more so out of vanity, out of
pleasure.
And pleasure,
Yeah, because you know, most animals, they because you know, I watch a lot of these programs, and a lot of these animals, especially in the insect world, they once they mate, they only do it for reproducing, and then many times the females kill the males. You know, and vice versa. A lot of animals. So their whole purpose of sex is primarily just for reproduction. Right. And there's very few animals. Actually,
now you think about it, I mean, they do it just for fun. Basically, I mean, they don't do it for fun. They do it more for like it's reason behind it why they do it.
Well, because you know, a lot of animals, they may not have a longer lifespan, yada yada, and they have to live just to continue the species, because they play a role in the ecosystem, right? Like, if you take any one animal, and I don't care how big or how small it is, if it's an insect or not, you take one animal out of an ecosystem, and the whole entire ecosystem will start collapsing. It's because
it's a delicate balance.
It's a very delicate balance, right? But we also play a role into that ecosystem, because we are humans. We are animals by natures too. We're just the ones that are the most important ones. I guess, you know, we're the you know, we get to make.
We got the pecking order right
now. And so. But what's interesting, though, is, you know, just through some research I found, like, there is some animals that also do it just for the sake of pleasure. But for most part, even scientists will say that most animals just do it for reproduction. But because there has been animals documented and seen, like monkeys, potentially pigs, and also potentially dolphins, that they have had sex with the same what's the word I'm looking for? Gender.
Mate.
Right?
Gender.
Right? Like, they would have sex with the same gender, and they do it just for pleasure. But that is not in the act of actually raising, like, a family and making the troop survive. It's more or less just something they do out of their own, I guess, sexuality. I mean, I don't know, because, you know, we're not a monkey. I just wanted to touch on that because I do believe that as a society, sex is a huge thing, and sexuality is a huge thing. And we have confused a lot of what's going on and what sex was really meant for, to be between, you know, man and wife, you know, etc. So just moving on, right? What are the pros and the cons, right? Like, we have a lot of pros and cons, right? Would you wear deodorant if there was no woman on the planet, George?
Well, studies have shown that men, that all the hygiene that we practice and all the things that we do are pretty much done for the opposite sex. I think I was in a study one time that showed that if there were no women on this earth, us guys would pretty much just, you know, be content with that and would go for what we know. Think about when you think about sexuality from a social standpoint. This is the reason why we have razors, barbers, deodorant, toothpaste, and clothes as such, because it's
absolutely
there, it's there. Whether it's, and I don't think it's innately. I think it's there socially. The reason why we are attracted to the opposite sex. So I think sexuality is
it's huge.
I think it's an innate instinct. I think it's innate. It's intrinsically built into us. But I also think that we carnally take it to another knowledge, another level.
And that's probably because we actually have a choice.
Yeah.
Like animals don't wake up and they just put on a different pair of clothes.
Right.
You know, they are who they are.
Right.
But we don't live in a society where we just walk around naked anymore because that's not, you know. 'Cause
Sexuality,
we know that
sexuality in humans is I believe is a conscious choice and effort.
Absolutely. I agree with that. How do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I
Marcus?
think that well, I mean, for the question, what you were saying, like for is like how would we still shave or would we still do like the grooming techniques as a, and I would say no, but I know, you know, it's an instinct type of thing, you know, but also like in the wild, they have to establish their male dominance in what you do. So maybe like, you know, in Africa, what they do now in this day and age, they don't use deodorant. They don't use that. I mean, that musk is like, you know, something that's more masculine to turn on the female. So that, I mean, they don't even do that. They don't do the hygiene type of thing, you know, when it's over there. So I would say no, you don't have to, but for some, it just depends on the individual, I think, to be honest. I mean, some people can be like, hey, you know, I still want to look good regardless if there's going to be some girls around or not.
There's some women that do the whole natural thing too.
Yeah.
Where they just let the armpits
in the Middle East, it's like
you know,
that too.
And then they may not even wear, you know, so, but
because that's culture.
Yeah, because our whole point, circling back to it is just that, like, this whole idea of like sexuality is a really big thing in this day and age.
Yeah.
You know,
it's huge.
And so which way do we look at it? Which way do we be? But it's we may not realize how strong sexuality plays a role in our culture today.
Well, if you look at television, everything that they sell on television,
The
from
sexiest looking,
a hamburger to the simplest thing on television.
It's always a beautiful woman.
Yeah, it's always surrounded
half
by
naked dude.
Yeah.
Chiseled abs.
Yeah, exactly.
Every
But that's me
time.
though. I mean, that's me already.
Yeah. I turned down a couple of commercial offers myself.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah.
We got the talking cute.
I didn't want my pecs to be shown on national TV. You know.
Yeah, there you go. So
because and what I really believe is that with how heavily the world pushes this idea, it really forces us to make tough decisions. It really forces us. It separates us. It can divide us. It can divide these marriages. It can divide relationships because I want to look just like her. I want to be just like her, or I want to be just like him. You know, I want to lift the most weights in the gym. I want to look and it's really confusing. I think because it even could confuse me a little bit because I'm looking at the kind of clothes that I wear now and I'm like, well, these pants are a lot tighter than they used to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like I'm comfortable wearing them.
Yeah.
But like, you know, maybe it makes me feel a little uncomfortable in the growing area. But it's like, but this is what everyone's doing now. Should I do it? Do I not do it?
Yeah.
Do I not dress like George dresses over here? Like he always looks super fashionable.
Thank
he's
you.
way out of his time. Like he's still living in his 20s, you know?
Yeah.
So this is a
Grandpa over here.
this is a really big thing.
Yeah, and it's a cultural thing.
And it's a cultural thing.
It's definitely a cultural thing because what we see as sexy over here in the United States there's a different version of that over in Europe.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we don't wear thongs. You know, we don't walk on the beach wearing really small Speedos for the most part.
Right.
But I got friends from France that do that.
Yeah, that's commonplace. Yeah.
So anyways, guys, we're going to take a short break. And when we get back, we're going to go into our personal section of sexuality.
Next time on the Catalyst.
I had very bad experiences with social media, so I actually, just from personal reasons, I look at social media. Sometimes it's kind of a bad thing.
I think it's I consider it as a necessary evil because it is mostly a lot of times used for negativity and attacks.
Yeah.
Little did I know, I knew the password, and I found out everything that I didn't really want to know about my daughter. You know.
Hey, welcome back to The Catalyst. Again, my name is Kyle Bourret.
I'm G. George.
And I'm Marcus Robinson.
And we are going to get into the personal, like, perspective, opinions, right? Like, we're not professionals.
Yeah.
We're just professionals in making mistakes as human beings, you know? So
Right.
we're only here just to give you how we feel about things, you know? But so here we go. We're getting into the personal perspective So I'm just gonna give it right like what I think. Like when I hear the word sexuality, all I think about is like sexual representation, right? I just think about when I hear the word sexuality, like are you gay? Are you straight? Are you bi? And that's really how I perceive it, right? Like that's just the way that the word is, the way that we watch television, the way that everything is. When you hear the word sexuality, all I'm thinking about is, are you gay? Are you straight, etc. I don't know if you guys want to piggyback off of that. Like, how do you, what do you see the word as sexuality? Marcus, George, you want to go first,
ahead,
Marcus?
Thanks, George. I really appreciate that.
No, I'm gonna toss it over to you.
No,
I don't
okay,
wanna tell
okay.
you.
You can take it
I
one.
gotta go.
Yeah.
Toss it to you.
We team
All right.
here. We team. Come on.
All right,
So
so
double play.
yeah, so what I think sexuality. As soon as I think of sexuality, I think of the root word, which is sex, meaning that man, woman, and that era, that type of thing. And I also think that when you talk about sexuality, it's about an overall like appearance, also about what a person is, or what their preferences are. And I think sexuality could be. It's not just those type of words where you just say, okay, this person is this or that, but it's more of it encompasses a lot more than just saying sexuality or just sex.
Like a whole representation.
Yeah, it's
of-
everything. A representation of the person in himself, like that person, like a man. Like say I'm a man, but a lot of things make it up to make me a man, opposed from it just saying, okay, I'm a man just because my face looks like a man. My muscles, my muscles comes
actual-
into the everything, my physical, attributes
Yeah.
of what
Got
I
it.
am makes
That's
it up.
your
what it-
sexuality.
That's my sexuality.
Got it.
And then the
Yeah, I
body
like
parts
that.
that I have that goes
Yeah.
into that makes who
That's
I
interesting.
am and
Yeah.
Yeah,
my
that is
sexuality.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like for me, sexuality is a mindset. Sexuality to me means is how you feel within about yourself within yourself, for lack of a better term, better description. Sexuality to me means the appearance of a female, the appearance of a male, and how we interact with one another, how we play off of that emotion, that mindset. And so sexuality to me is for if you were to ask me what you're asking me, what does it mean to me? It's a mindset.
Mindset, okay.
I feel sexy when I dress a certain way, when I get my fresh haircut,
Yes.
when I get when I'm got the manicure, and I got on my Ebony Jet Man of the Month outfit. I'm feeling all of that, and so it makes me feel good. I know a lot of folks do that and say, well, that's just I just do that because that's what we're supposed to do. Again, back to that cultural thing. But I think for me, I think I take my sexuality and other people's sexuality a step further than sometimes maybe it should go, because I know that I
Like
wear,
overdoing.
like you said, I wear some wild stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's for me. It makes me feel good too. And I know
Absolutely.
that it's going to get attention from people from
Got
the
it.
opposite sex. So sexuality is a mindset, and it's how you look
Okay.
at it, I think.
No, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just kind of, since we're all married men, I want to go into like a question about our wives,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's really important to keep the sexiness alive, especially when you get married. 'cause
Absolutely,
Then you got the real challenges of the world,
Yeah.
So
for sure,
like,
for sure.
so I didn't really know how I wanted to go about these questions, but I
Yeah.
really want to hit it. Like, is it okay to feel like you need to be sexy for your wife or sexy for your girlfriend?
For me, absolutely.
Okay.
I want to look as I want to be attractive to my wife, physically, spiritually, and mentally.
Okay.
And so that outward appearance is what draws you to
Okay.
a person in the first place. It's just like food. When you go into a restaurant, what's the first thing they do? They give you that menu. You look it over. And that's the same thing with how I feel about with people. When we first interact with one another from an opposite sex standpoint, the first thing we see in our wives was how she looked. Then I say, I want to talk to her, and that's appealing. That's how. So yes, I want to be appealing to my wife. I want my wife to find me attractive. I want my wife to find me sexy, and I like when she does that for me too. So that's absolutely, guys, as far as I'm concerned.
I think for me, I would say I would love for me to represent my wife. I mean, because that's what we're doing when you go out there. But sometimes it could work out negatively, and looking so sexy, so to speak, to where you draw attention from
Because
the
women
opposite sex.
also-
Yeah, they pick up on it, draw from the
Absolutely.
opposite
Is that
sex.
why we do it though?
Well, not necessarily.
No, I mean not everybody. But in general. In general.
But
Yeah.
I'm saying, but most of the time we do that is because basically we're trying to look good for one, for our wife, but we're just trying to look good in general because we know ourselves we look good.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and so I think it's a little
Yeah,
more,
good.
vanity and pride in there. You know,
Like a prideful thing,
that goes into there. But like for as my wife looking good for me, I would say I want her to look good for me. And I want her to always represent like me.
Us.
Yeah, exactly. Us. When you
yeah.
look at it, it's us. But in a sense of like looking too sexy. So for the things that she wears, and like I totally believe in modesty. And I would like to have that other part of my wife on how she grooms herself to be shown in the private side of my life. At home, and that type of the sexy look, type of thing.
Yeah,
I don't want other people to see that sexy part of her because I don't want her to have to turn everybody's else's head
But
and to
for
make
you
them
and just
to
her by
aggressive.
yourself,
to aggressive.
is that a good thing for you? Just you and her by yourself,
By herself,
at
it's
home on date night.
Yes, it's a
Yeah,
great time
yeah.
between me and her,
Yeah, yeah, right,
but as
right.
soon as you take that a step further, that's just my opinion.
No,
You know,
yeah.
my opinion. I don't
Yeah,
want that to be out there like that.
No,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah, I
agree
think-
because like my wife she is not a very revealing woman. She just never really
Yeah, mine
dresses
either.
that
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Very
she
conservative.
just keeps it very
Yeah.
conservative.
Yeah.
But there's those times where when we go out and it's like I get so excited when she wears certain things that are a little
Right.
more revealing because sometimes I'm just like, you know what, because I roll in my wheelchair most time when I go out to some big events, and I want my wife to see that a guy in the wheelchair is with this beautiful woman,
Right,
so
right.
there's a little bit of that prideful thing, but I want to conclude with this last question. And I want to go back to, because I think a lot of relationships are dealing with this, especially with how your woman or your wife, however you look at it, dresses when they go out, and how that can be damaging to the relationships, etc. And just where you kind of draw the line towards that. Because I don't want to tell my wife, hey, you can't wear anything, because I never tell my wife that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And she's already naturally conservative, but is there a line that can potentially needs to get drawn in order to prevent some kind of
it depends on the person, but I mean just in my
In the
opinion,
marriage,
and how they perceive their marriage to be, because some people can go out there and walk down the street with a bikini on, and the husband is like, I like that because that's what I'm very secure in my, but to me it doesn't really mean about secure
like a
being
bad
secure.
representation of
Yes,
them.
because ultimately the person, the woman, would draw, like I was saying earlier, would draw attention from other males, which would probably make them stumble. And and you get into that Christianity type of thing, like what will cause a person to stumble. You shouldn't do that to make a person stumble when it comes to that. If it has to do with sexuality as well.
I got you. You want to wrap it up with your
just
little
real quick,
perspective too?
my wife is very conservative. She's a godly woman, and she I would never have to facilitate or comment on what she can and cannot wear, because she's like I said, she's who she is.
Yeah.
And she conducts herself with as a woman and as a God-fearing woman.
Yeah, just respectful woman,
She's sexy.
absolutely.
There's times when we go out and she looks great in these certain jeans.
Yeah.
Or the dress, whether it be formal.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I think that that's incumbent upon that person to know who they are and where they are, how comfortable they are within their own sexuality.
I got
My wife
that.
has that.
Good. Okay. We gave you, a little bit more of our perspective, guys. We're gonna take another quick little break, and when we come back, we're gonna hit on God's perspective.
Next time on the Calyx.
I had very bad experiences with social media, so I actually, just from personal reasons, I look at social media, sometimes it's kind of a bad thing.
I think it's I consider it as a necessary evil, because it is mostly a lot of times used for negativity and attacks.
Yeah.
Little did I know, I knew the password, and I found out everything that I didn't really want to know about my daughter.
Exactly. Hey guys, welcome back to the Catalyst again. My name's Kyle Bourret,
I'm G. George.
And I'm Marcus Robinson.
Yeah.
and now we're bringing you to the part of the show that usually can get like the most difficult, because now we're really coming at you with what we believe to be as facts, what we believe to be the truth. So every one of our topics that we talk about, it has, you know, the worldly perspective, the personal perspective, and then we get down to the godly perspective, which we believe is the foundation for how we are supposed to be. And like, we're not professionals. We just want to bring you what we believe to be true as men who live in this world. So when we talk about sexuality from God's perspective, I believe that God is really like the ultimate author of what sexuality was, right? God created the heavens and the earth. Like God created the sun, God created the moon. That you can almost look at that as like a husband and a wife doing two different jobs, taking care of the world. You look at the seasons; everything is beautiful in its own season, right? Different animals mate in different seasons, so that could be a sexual thing as well if you think about it. When doves and birds have to fly across the entire world or United States just to mate during a different time. So God is really the ultimate author of this thing that we're calling sexuality, right? And in the beginning, when God created man, he created Adam, and he saw that Adam was alone, and he said that he needs to give a helper. And then he had put him to sleep. He pulled out a rib and put it into woman, basically, and brought the woman.
Created woman, yeah.
It was just Eve, right? It didn't really, she didn't have name or however it was. And then brought, it says that God brought Eve to Adam, and he says that we will name her woman, right?
Yeah.
And then they both felt no shame.
Right.
So like, George, I love how you always say like, they must have just been like, wow.
Yeah.
Right? Because like when you see, like when you, like if you refrain from having sex before marriage, and then you see your wife for the first time naked, right? Because it says they were naked and unashamed, right? And you see your wife for the first time, you're like, wow. And then you just go to town, you know, it's your wife, you know what I'm saying? So like, God is the ultimate author. He was the ultimate creator. And I really want to go into something, because I want to be on the side for the ladies. And I believe that living in a day and age that we're in, I think that women do have it really tough. I think that because of what goes on commercials that we watch, you can't order, you know, a Carl's Jr. burger without seeing a girl in a bikini on the beach, right? No matter what you eat nowadays, no matter what you see nowadays, you know, every single time you're watching these reality shows, the women are always talking about the new plastic surgery, the new boob job, yada yada yada, that they got to do.
Right.
So how do you guys feel about women growing up in this day and age on their sexuality? Do you think it's tough for them?
Oh yeah, I definitely think it's tough. I mean, all the images that they see that they are influenced by, whether it be out in the world, at the office, at school, on television, they all to me promote sexuality.
Absolutely.
I mean, from every aspect. Even if you look at, I'm looking at some toys that my granddaughter have, and the little babies, the little dolls and stuff they have on lipstick and rouge and stuff on their, if that's still a word, I don't know, ladies, I just heard that. But you know, yeah, it's all built around that, and our society is geared toward that. So yeah, it's difficult. It's a tough situation from, I guess it would be from a female standpoint, but again, from the male standpoint too. I like the latest jeans. I love to dress. I'm a dressaholic. I mean, or maybe I am. I don't know. To some of you rich guys out there, maybe I'm not. But I mean, I like the latest fashions. I like the latest shoes. I like the latest gadgets.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that we're all victim to that. I think I think we all fall into that that notion of the latest, greatest, sexiest,
I agree.
new item. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that women, seriously, they're at a disadvantage, you know, and proven over history through time that women are at a disadvantage, and it's slowly but surely happening, but it's happening at such a slow rate to where you probably we never will see the change, you know, the ultimate complete change, you know, of women and being equality with men, you know, based upon their sexuality, because we got to face it, that I believe that this is a man's world, and you know, and a man has created. I'm not, you know, saying knocking against the man or knocking against the women. I'm saying like what it is, you know, but you know, biblically, I think that if we were to hold true to values of where it says that men and women are created equal, that we would actually start to live that out in a way till we can show that we are equal.
Absolutely, yeah, because women, you know, because like there's no unequal opportunity in the way that the world is nowadays. You know, women lead stuff, women lead businesses, women are some of the most richest people in the entire world are women. So it's not like they're at a disadvantage. But on the topic of sexuality,
On the sexuality,
then
There's plenty of scripture that deals directly with sexuality. Like you said, you just quoted Genesis. You just talked about Genesis. But even then, from the beginning, we see that that they were attracted to one another.
Yes.
They were God made man to be attracted to woman and vice versa.
Yes.
You know, and so I mean,
how would you reproduce? I mean, at least for our standpoint.
From the get-go.
Yeah.
And I like what you said too, and I just want to touch on this for just a second. I like what you said when a man comes with this woman and he's never had sex with her and he sees her for the first time after their wedding night and he sees her. That's an awesome sight. That's gonna be an awesome sight.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just be real with you guys. For you guys that don't out there that don't know what that's like, and for you guys that do, I commend you guys that do know what that's like. And that's an awesome thing to know that you get a chance to get excited about the first and the only person that you're going to be with. Now, I'm not
For the rest of
saying,
your life.
Yeah, for the rest of your life. You can only get that once.
Yeah,
And
you can.
So you guys out there, you ladies out there, if you haven't done it, just try to experience that if you can, because that's how it was meant to be in the first place. I'm not trying to preach to you. I'm not trying to preach to you, but I'm just giving it to you.
Yeah, if it's possible, I mean, why not? Why not? You know?
Yeah.
And you know,
Wait.
And I just want to piggyback off of that one, and I want to go into really briefly just talking about like Solomon. Like Solomon asked God for wisdom,
Great poet,
and
huh?
God gave him.
He was a player.
almost-
Solomon was a player.
And that's the point is that he said he didn't ask for riches or anything. He asked for wisdom, but the wisdom brought everything.
It brought everything.
The wisdom brought everything.
All those wives
right?
and concubines. Yeah, come on.
And what does the scripture say about wisdom? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right?
Yeah,
knowledge.
Amen.
So it's the beginning of knowledge. So that can also be categorized as probably wisdom, right?
Yeah.
And so when you look at Solomon, I just want to press on to how dangerous beauty can be, right? It's like a blessing and a curse, right?
Yeah.
Because Solomon asked for wisdom, God gave him wisdom, and that brought the riches, the fame, it brought everything.
Yeah.
But then it was so poetic reading when you get into like Ecclesiastes and you get into all these verses, because what does Solomon say? He says, no, like everything that's under the sun is bad. I've had it all. I've tasted it all.
Yeah.
Right? Because he went out to be with another woman. And right, that
Women
that believed in other gods. They brought other things in. And
Yeah.
his life fell apart because of beauty.
Yeah.
Because he had what God had given him, and then he threw it all away with adultery, and he just left, basically leaving his wife to go be with these other ones, and everything else comes into play.
And he probably was a good-looking guy himself.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I the reason why I just wanted to touch on that is because we're also told in Proverbs 3:25 that she was clothed with strength and dignity, and she can laugh at the days to come. Now, a lot of people do take these types of verses way out of context, but the premise of the verse is that a woman just doesn't. You women do not just need to dress, and you men do not just need to dress as sexy as possible for someone else to be interested in. Your wisdom, the way that you represent yourself, we are all fluent in more than one language. If you only speak one language, you forget that you're fluent in body language. Right? The way you represent yourself, the way you talk, the way you just, it's not all just has to be a visual sexual thing. And I think that that's really what the world is pressing on us. And I think that's really suppressing our ability to even accept God, accept the Holy Spirit, accept for what it is to be truth in the world. Is just
There's some women and men out there, and while we're talking about this, with some sexy minds.
Absolutely.
And some sexy spirits.
Absolutely.
Amen.
So, you guys, this was a two-part series on sexuality. This one here was really covering the premise of how the world sees sexuality, how we see sexuality, and then we tried to do our best to just give you a little glimpse about how God sees sexuality. Of course, it's up to you guys. We're no experts in this. I don't want to say do this or do that, but man, we have all had some very crazy experiences in our life to where this thing called the Bible just gave us some answers to a lot of questions that we had.
I like that.
And through living through experiences, right? Like the Bible was written then, but things still happen. But God, we are still the byproduct of God's blessing. So we get to be able to show you guys how our lives are, right, through the scriptures, through what God has done in our lives. So like I said, we're not the experts, but guys, we're here for you. We want to hear what you guys got to say. So be ready to go and check out the next episode of this two-part series on sexuality, which is called Sexuality. Who am I anyways, guys?
There you go.
This has been The Catalyst. I've been with G. George.
Yeah.
I've been with Marcus Robinson. And we'll see you on the next one.